So, but simultaneously, his troops are coming down hard and killing more and more protesters. Why is that the situation? What point is he trying to make? And welcome to the program.
Okay, thank you very much. I think this man once and again shows the ugly face of this, power in Sana'a, which is using undue force against our peaceful demonstrators in Aden. I think and I believe that the president doesn't want to leave at all. He's just looking for any excuses so that he could blow out completely this sort of arrangement which the GCC countries have reached to. He was expecting the opposition to refuse such an arrangement whereby it offers a safe outcome for him to leave the country. But he doesn't want to leave the country. He wants just to continue to rule. And he's using all means possible to bring the country down to its knees, using force. They're killing 3 of our brothers in Aden without any excuse, because he should have now he should have been looking forward towards the second signing of this document. So he is just looking for excuses so that he doesn't appear there. He already said that he's not going to go to Riyadh. He's not going to Riyadh to sign that to sign the document. And the opposition already has said, Mr. Mohamed Saleh said, if the president doesn't sign this document, we will not sign it at all, because we don't believe anybody else who could actually get commitment towards this agreement which we have reached. So the man is just now looking for any excuses. He's running away from his fate. We have said this man and his regime is already clinically dead. But while he is dying, he is trying to pull the country apart into turmoil, into anarchy, and this is something which our friends in the GCC, our brothers in the GCC, and our friends in the region should know, that this is quite a dangerous situation whereby the whole area is going to face dangers for security, dangers for its stability, and the whole region has got to come out forcefully against this man and let him know that he has no any other way except to leave as soon as possible, or he will be facing his fate, which I expect that he will be facing a trial. He will be followed everywhere for all these crimes which he is committing against humanity.
Okay, well, Mr. Al-Mawari, let me get you in on this. If, according to what our previous guest said, okay, I guess we'll reconnect with him. We will reconnect with him. Let me switch over to Peter Rushton. Thank you, sir. Welcome to the program. Now, how do you see the situation? Our previous guest has said that it is likely, or according to some reports, that Saleh is saying that he will not go to Riyadh. What happens, in your perspective, if he doesn't? What would be the next step then?
Well, I think the next step is now in the hands of those people who have been prepared to fund and to arm Saleh for all these years. Saleh isn't going to continue doing this unless he thinks he can get something out of it, unless he thinks he has a chance to survive, unless he thinks he has a chance to continue tapping this great reserve of military and financial assistance that he's received over the years from the United States. He clearly does not believe that the game is yet up. And it's up to his US backers, and for that matter, his Saudi backers, and those other states in the region allied to the United States and Saudi Arabia, to convey the message very clear to him that the time is up, and to pick up the message that these imperial power games, these types of power games that have been played since the tail end of the Cold War in Saleh's case, since the 1970s, he's been prospering from playing these games, to get the message out to him very clearly that those days are over. Now, apart from anything else, the message also has to get out that he no longer has a get out of jail free card. He no longer has the right to commit these crimes and get away with them with impunity. It's quite clear at the moment that he believes he can continue doing this, that he is confident that despite all the rhetoric, he's able to continue playing the same old game at the expense of his own people. The only people who can convey that message very clearly must surely be his paymasters, since that's what Saleh is in this business for. He's in this business to make money for himself and for his cronies, for his vast network of cronies. It's high time that those backers called time on that and ended this,
and who are we talking about?
That's been
Mr.
going on for so
Rushton,
many years.
Mr. Rushton, let me just jump in this. Who are we talking about particularly? You're saying his paymasters.
Well, in this instance, ultimately the United States, who've been the ultimate source of all of this, but of course the United States operates through a number of proxies in the region, notably Saudi Arabia. The US-Saudi axis is at the root of an awful lot of these problems. It's that US-Saudi axis which has poisoned the entire region for so long, simply because Saleh has been sure that he's been able to tap into an almost bottomless pit of financial aid. This has been the case since before modern Yemen was created, since the days of him being in charge of North Yemen as the Cold War military strongman. And he sees each new crisis as an opportunity. He sees any terrorist threat in the region not as something to be overcome, not as something to be overcome by increasing the prosperity of his own people, by increasing a sense of justice among his own people, that will and a sense of stability among his own people. Oh no, he sees terrorism as one more card that he can play in the hand of cards that he's been playing ever since the Cold War. Terrorism, instability, all of these things that for his own people are disastrous, are to him opportunities, and they're opportunities that he's continuing to exploit. And so those paymasters are, as I say, the US-Saudi axis. This is why all of the Gulf countries' peace deal is part of the problem, really, rather than part of the solution, because these same countries are again part of that US-Saudi power axis across the region.
Okay, well, let me get to Mr. Qubaty back in on this and get his perspective of what you've just said, Mr. Rushton. What about that, Mr. Rushton? He said that the U.S.-Saudi Arabia axis has actually done more harm than good in this situation in Yemen. How do you see the role of Saudi Arabia and the United States in what's going on in Yemen?
Is that for me? Eh?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. And anyhow, I do agree with actually most of what Peter Rushton has mentioned. You know, he's got a very good insight to how the games, how Ali Abdullah Saleh has been playing all these games and getting away easily unpunished. I think this time it's going to be, it should be quite different, because he's not playing with his fate only. He's playing with the whole fate of the area and fate of the region. So the Saudis, if our brothers the Saudis, if they don't realize soon that the man is actually going to hurt them if he continues with this game, then they will pay for it without without doubt. So it's time and high time. As I had mentioned, we've read that he's not going to go to Riyadh. I read now some news that perhaps the United Nations is going to send an envoy to Sana'a. We have been hearing that perhaps the Secretary General himself might come to Sana'a, because these crimes are crimes against humanity. How can the whole world keep seeing what's happening in our cities? This man is continuing to kill our brothers, to kill our people, and at the end, some people are coming and they want to give him amnesty for all these crimes. It should not continue like that. I think this is taking the whole area into very dangerous waters, and I think everybody else has got to. We expect all people, all governments which are which are siding with the peaceful right of our people to demonstrate and to ask for their rights, that we ask for their help, and they have got to come out to condemn all these crimes which are committed, and atrocities which Ali Abdullah Saleh is continuing every day to commit them.
Now, how do you see let me just jump back in here, Mr. Qubaty. How do you see the international community in general? You just talked about the situation in Yemen, how it's deteriorating, how people are dying every day. Do you think that the international, especially the Western capitals, have been aggressive enough in addressing the situation in Yemen, or how do you see it?
Unfortunately, you see, at the beginning, 3 weeks ago, we saw that the European Union and the United States have started calling for the immediate departure of Ali Abdullah Saleh from the seat of power. But then afterwards, I don't know what happened as far as we came to know that the brothers in the GCC have asked the Europeans and the Americans, tell them, well, this is our back garden, let us deal with this situation, and we don't want the same, dealings has gone on with Egypt, we'll deal with it. And then suddenly, we have seen them actually now, they're taking a very sort of doubtful moves. So we're expecting them to move quickly to start freezing the assets of this man and all his cronies, and also to start dealing with a lot of those steps as regards not issuing visas for them, and then they will start and understanding that the world is actually following all these crimes, and they're not going to live without any punishment. So yes, unfortunately the West has disappointed us very much as regards what's happening. Our people in Sana'a and Aden are saying, why should the Americans and the Europeans took different, sort of attitudes as regards the situation in Libya, as regards the situation in Egypt and in Tunisia, whereas here in Yemen there's a lot of their interest in the area. They know very well, and they do realize very well that the sensitivity of the position of Yemen in this strategic corner of the world, it could affect their interest very much, even worse than I think in Libya. And if the situation in Yemen gets out of control, the whole world will suffer. Come on, we are expecting them to move fast now and to try and help us confronting this massacres which this man, he's a butcher carrying out killings every day, mass killings, and the world is just keeping a sort of a blind eye on it.
Okay, Mr. Qubaty, let me turn back to my other guest in London, Mr. Rushton, get him back in on this discussion. Now, how do you see what our previous guest said regarding the international community? Do you think at this point in time that we are going to see a change, that the Western community specifically, that they're become more active in the situation that is taking place in Yemen? And also, where do you think the line lies? When a Bahraini protester is killed, there's one reaction. When a Syrian is killed, there's another reaction. When someone in Yemen and someone in Libya, when they're killed, there are all different reactions. What's the reason behind this, sir?
Well, I think it's twice over now a question of credibility. In the last few days, there might still have been some diplomats in the West who could have legitimately thought that they could say, well, Saleh has said he will go in 30 days, let's give him a chance. As each day passes, it's becoming clearer that those of us who were always skeptical about Saleh's credentials in this respect and how far Saleh could be trusted, that we were amply justified in being skeptical. It's becoming very clear that Saleh simply cannot be trusted in anything he says about any possibility of him agreeing to give up power or transfer power as some sort of peace deal. His credibility, therefore, has run out. It's now a question of the West's credibility, as was being hinted at earlier on. It's now a question of the credibility of those people who hold the purse strings, who have the capability to introduce international sanctions, who have the capability to track down and freeze this man's assets. Because after all, it's not much use to him sitting on an enormous amount of wealth if he's simply holed up somewhere in Yemen. He wants to be able to access that wealth in international bank accounts, to move that wealth around. And sooner or later, we know that the West has the capability to freeze those assets if it wishes to do so. Now, so it's now a question of the West's credibility, particularly when our own Foreign Secretary, for example, here in London, is prepared to pontificate about Syria, is prepared to pontificate about Libya, but simply stands idly by while bloodshed goes on, continued bloodshed goes on in Yemen and Bahrain, and of course, as we saw, even is prepared to invite members of the Bahraini royal family to the royal wedding just the other day. So the credibility of Britain, of the European Union, particularly of the United States, is now on the line. if they wish to continue to be credible in the new Middle East that is now emerging, the new Middle East that will emerge after the end of the era of these puppets, of these so-called strong men who were prepared to be dictators at home and prepared to repress their own populations, while as far as the superpowers were concerned, effectively being on puppets on the end of their string. Their era is ending, and in the new Middle East that's emerging, the Western powers must seek to maintain their own credibility. If they wish to have credibility, it's time for them now to act with their former puppet, their continuing puppet, Saleh, and say, the time is up. If you don't hand over power, if you don't cease the killing now, you will be facing the freezing of your assets around the world, and most assuredly, one way or another, you will face justice, either at the hands of your own people. Sooner or later, you will face justice. Let us hope there's a minimum of bloodshed before justice can be established in Yemen. And not only for the people of Yemen, but that ought to be in the interests of the West as well. If the West really seeks to have genuine credibility restored across the region. As I say, the West's credibility is now at stake. Saleh's credibility is long since gone.
Okay. And on that note, I'd like to thank Mr. Peter Rushton, historian and political analyst from London, also Mohamed Qubaty, political opposition activist, and our very own Press TV correspondent, Mohamed Al-Atab, on the ground in Sana'a. As you can see, breaking news right now, Press TV's signal and Nile site has been jammed one more time. Of course, we'll be bringing you more on that story and everything else that's making top headline stories right here at Press TV. Don't go. We'll be back shortly with the news.